This question is from another Patreon supporter, Deli Beth. When a loved one leaves this avatar, can their IUOC communicate with us in this reality instead of it being the LCS before and after they have come back in another avatar?
Anything's possible. Okay? Anything is possible. You say, is it possible that everything's possible? But it's not particularly likely. It's unlikely that you will talk directly with a loved one, after they've passed away, and not with the LCS or the system, depending on what you ask, with the database. Unlikely, because their attention is elsewhere. They don't even really clearly remember the past life they just had. They've kind of, that's kind of slipped away from them. So, not impossible, but very unlikely. Now, might you talk to somebody who sounds and acts like and is exactly like your loved one? Matter of fact, it is such a perfect copy that you couldn't tell the difference. Well, now that's very likely, because when you interact with people who have died, you'll get really what was them. Okay. Now, no, it's not that individual free will awareness unit. That free will awareness unit that was them doesn't exist anymore. But you will get something that is them in every way. The emotions, the feeling, the attitudes, all of it will be them. So it's not like you're getting a fake. Information is real. It's the only thing that's real. Consciousness is fundamental, and it's real because it's an information system. You get information about your loved one when they're here interacting with you before they die. And what you get is an information stream. And you get that information stream and you interpret it to be that person. Okay, you get it from them, interact with them. After they die, you get an information stream and you interpret that information as them. It's really the same thing. The only difference is that the first one is when they're still living, is a free will awareness unit that is playing that character. Now, that free will awareness unit is a piece of consciousness. Okay, now after they die, you also get a piece of consciousness playing that character. It's just not the same free will awareness unit. It's just another piece of consciousness playing that character. So before they die, a piece of consciousness playing that character. After they die, a piece of consciousness playing that character. You can't really tell the difference. There is no practical difference.
Well,
So
Tom,
no, it's not likely that's going to happen. Now, it does happen lots of people talk to their loved ones soon after they die. It's a very common thing. Mom just pops into your head and says, I just want to let you know, honey, that I'm just fine, everything's okay. You get those kind of messages, which are meant to help the survivors, the people who are grieving, to let go, that it's okay. The person's doing fine. They're moving forward in their life. It's a good thing, instead of focusing on it's a bad thing that they passed on and that they died. Oh, what a terrible thing. They give you the message, not a terrible thing. I'm doing fine. It's a good thing. So a lot of people get that. I don't know, probably 50%, of the population probably gets that. But
I did get
that's
that also with my dad. But you know what just came to mind when you were speaking about this? When we were at Lumley Castle for your event, Jürgen Ziewe was there, and you did have some sort of a difference of opinion in whether he was actually speaking to his mother or not. Jürgen is a very accomplished out of body
Mhm.
researcher. And it occurred to me that this difference really isn't a difference because you stress that this experience is very individual. We have individual data streams. We are given individual data streams. And that the data stream that people receive is their own. It's made especially for them. And
Right.
therefore, Jurgen's interpretation of always being able to communicate with his mother, how real it was, how he knows it's her, is especially made for Jurgen and for each person that receives this information.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes all you need is, I got a vision of my dad. And these kinds of data streams don't come necessarily in words, they come in a download. And what my dad was saying a few months after he died, and I got this vision of him, very elated, very happy, was something like, why didn't they tell me it was like this? You know, giving me that message, or the LCS giving me that message, that everything with him was fine
Right.
and that he was very, very well off. So I think people are sometimes questioning how cold this is to receive a data stream, and it's not really the the person that has been deceased. But in either case, as you say, information is the real thing, and how we receive it is individual. And what it is there for is to help us.
Exactly. The information is very specific, you know, from that individual to another individual. Absolutely. Yeah, I remember talking with Jurgen, and of course, everything that he saw and all of his conversations with his mom were exactly as he said, and it was indeed his mom he was talking to, and so on. Okay. But that's because those messages were, as you say, they're handcrafted for Jurgen to help Jurgen understand the things that he needs to understand, help him understand reality, help him understand life, help him understand what happens when you die. So he gets these things in order to pique his interest in his own learning. And he gets them through the voice and the sound and the feel and the character of his mother. Okay, now, I think that's a nice thing. I don't find that cold at all. What's cold about that? You're talking about a system that cares a lot, enough to be concerned about teaching you things and helping you deal with problems. So I think it's a very warm thing. Now, the idea that this free will awareness unit will just hang out forever. Okay, once done, Uncle Fred's going to be there doing what? Oh, playing harps on a cloud. Okay, I forgot. Yes, well, even playing harps on a cloud gets to be monotonous and boring if you have to do it forever. Might be a good thing to do for a few years, even a few, decades, but not forever. Anything is too long for forever. So that's not reasonable. It doesn't make any logical sense that all these people. What about the people, what about Sam Smith, who was born 10,000 years ago? Nobody alive remembers Sam Smith anymore. He's somebody's great, 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 great grandfather or uncle or something, but nobody's ever heard of him. He's not in any history book. Nobody ever goes out and says, "Hey, Sam, I'd like to talk to you." So nobody calls Sam. What does he do? What's his thing? Nobody's going to call him and want to talk to him. He's been dead for 1,000 years. Nobody even knows he existed. And he's just going to what? Hang out? Doing what? Accomplishing what? Growing up how? Changing how? You see, it just doesn't make any sense. It's not a logical system. It's an illogical system. This system is one about growth, about growing and becoming. So you have an incarnation, you experience, you grow, you make choices, and then you have another one. And you make choices and you grow and you have another one. That's what it's about. It's about growing up, becoming love. It's not about hanging out forever. That doesn't really make any sense. Hanging out forever. If these people are hanging out forever, can you imagine the family picnic that would happen every year where there'd be you and your 20,000 wives and your 50,000 children and all of their wives and children. And pretty soon you'd have probably 10 or 20 million people that were all direct members of your family. Just your children, their wives, their children, the last dozen or so, maybe of your own wives and children, and so on. You see how enormous that would grow? I mean, that would be, tens of millions of people. Even if you said hello to each one of them for 1 second and then passed to the next and said hello, you wouldn't be able to get through them all in another millennia. So it just gets, it's weighty, it's useless. It
It's
doesn't really,
inefficient.
yeah, it's
It's
inefficient. It
your
doesn't provide.
theory is based on the fact that reincarnation or life experience packets is a better term that you use. Is it speaks to the evolution, to the growth, to the goal of a finite system lowering its entropy.
Right.
So that is logical in that sense.
Yes, the system is here to grow up. It's not a social system of a bunch of beings that just want to hang out forever. That just doesn't make any sense. It's inefficient and doesn't really accomplish anything. Hanging out forever is not on anybody's list of things to do. Forever's just too long to hang out. So it just doesn't work that way because it's illogical and unreasonable and terribly inefficient from a process of working a system. But it certainly seems like that for all of this 50% of the people who do talk to dead parents and relatives and children. Happens all the time. And it's done not because those dead, parents, children, and so on are so anxious to talk to somebody. It's because the people still living here on this planet, working out their experience packets, they need a little help adjusting to the death, adjusting to the new circumstances. And this connection, this feedback from the dead back to the living is the thing the system does to help all the people who are still living. It's not for the benefit of the dead people. The dead people are moving on, finding new challenges, new ways of learning,
I
trying
think
to
that's
trying to evolve the quality of their consciousness. They moved on. They're not just going to sit around, suck their thumb in a corner, wait for somebody to tap them on the shoulder.
well, that's a good point to illustrate that this is a compassionate LCS. This is a compassionate being
Yeah,
that some call
exactly.
God to comfort the people who are left here.
So the idea that, oh, that's cold, that's a cold, prickly reality, it's not at all. It just depends on the way you look at it. Now, people have things they want. People tend to be self-centered. That's just the nature of people. They tend to be self-centered. And when you're self-centered, you don't want to let go of the things that you want. No, I want my Uncle Fred to be around because I always enjoyed Uncle Fred and we always spent a lot of time talking and holidays and he's my favorite uncle. So I don't want him to be away. Well, things don't happen here because you want them to. What you're here for is to make choices and grow up, not demand or desire the system to spoon feed you with things you love to do. You're not here just to feel good and do things you like to do. What you'll find out is what you like to do and what gives you pleasure is growing up, helping other people, becoming love. That's what makes you happy, not just doing the same old things, talking to the same old people over and over again. It's going out, interacting, helping.
Well,
That's,
that's your theory of we have a purpose here,
yes.
and purpose adds a lot to understanding who we are.
I and MBT Events hope you liked this video. We will continue to post videos for free on my YouTube channel, but please understand, these videos are expensive to produce. They represent many thousands of hours of production and editing, as well as all the necessary audiovisual equipment, computers, and software. If you find something of significant value in our videos, please consider supporting their production through our Patreon account or through a one-time donation. It would be very much appreciated. The links are in the description below. Thank you.